Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host Mitchell J. Raven, and we're very glad that you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We are very pleased to have with us Paulo Roberto from Brazil, psychotherapist and environmentalist, who is leading a movement down there, a spiritual movement, involved in Daime, which he'll be speaking about to some extent, and his work in and with the rainforest, preserving over 1 million acres of rainforest so it can be used sustainably and wisely, so we can all continue to breathe instead of, well, what's going on. We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
It's really a
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. Thank you, Mitchell.
It's been great to get to know you here.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you could just give us a little idea of where is it that you live and what is the life like down there in the Amazon when you're
Okay, actually, I have two houses. I have two places to live. Yeah. I live in Rio de Janeiro, yeah, in a special place. It's a kind of private reservation. It's in the border with the national park. Rio is one of the only cities that has a national park
around it?
in the middle of the city, surrounded by buildings and streets and cars. Yeah, and I have a house in the Amazon too, at the Mapia community, the village of Mapia. That
How many
is
people live there?
around 600 people. Yeah. And the distance between my two houses is the same distance between Paris and Moscow.
Really?
Yes. and I need
How long
3
does-
days, and I need 3 days to travel from Rio to Mapia.
How often do you make the trip?
Like twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year.
Right.
And
Do you spend in Rio or in Mapia?
well, now recently I am more in Rio, yeah, and I'm more in Rio de Janeiro. But I was just in Mapia like 1 week ago. You see, I was in the jungle.
Now, what's going on with people? I know that you are setting up or have set up a model for sustainability so that people can see what's going on in Mafia and follow an example of how to be living on the land in that particular land and do so harmoniously, do so in a sustainable way so as not to replicate all of the damage that's already been done by corporations from the United States and Europe and elsewhere. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
Of course. Well, first I would like to tell you the origin of the movement, what happened. Yeah?
Please.
My father-in-law was one of the first leaders, spiritual leaders, a great shaman, and he created one of the first, what we can call, community of independent rubber tappers. The rubber tappers in the Amazon were always submitted to the rubber barons in a kind of slavery.
Yes.
Yeah. Rubber barons, they made
It's a famous old relationship.
yes, and they made a lot of money.
Around
They built an opera in Manaus. They brought Caruso to sing in the opera. In the intermission of the opera, they got the champagne bottle containers and full of champagne and sent to their horses and their carriages to drink. Meanwhile, all the rubber tappers were just dying in the forest, in a very wild environment that used to be called the green hell. Yeah, that you go in panic with so much mosquitoes and fevers and closed forest, and you see that was a big drama. Yeah. But with decline, with the decline of the rubber industry there, started the independent rubber tappers. Yeah. But my father-in-law, he was a visionary man. Yeah. In his spiritual works, he has visionary experiences. and he saw the great fire that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
He saw in his visionary, he saw everything caught in fire. You see, and this was, let's say, at the end of 70s. And some voice came to him and told him they were supposed to move because a lot of blood will come, a lot of crime and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and then in the near future that happened. You see, the
In what
world.
year?
This was like 1979. The World Bank financed the BR 364, a road. There was a road that made a lot of environmental mistakes, entering the Indian land, and brought the progress. And the progress was called deforestation. You see. Then, Padrinho Sebastião is the name of my father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to move to inside the forest. And they moved to a very wild place, a place that nobody would dare to go because of malaria and another diseases.
Mm-hmm.
You see. But the Daime people, they find that the jungle is their home.
Mm-hmm.
It's our home, let's say.
Uh-huh.
And in 3 years, the community managed to have a sustainable life there.
So people came with him when he left.
200 people. 200 people followed him to the deep forest and started to do a community there with a lot of,
Yep.
if you need some goods for your children, you walk 3 days and you come back in 3 days, carrying everything you got it. You see, till you have the first rice or first beans or first maniocs. See, and open the trails from one rubber tree to another rubber tree, make 200 trees trail, and with the products of the rubber, the community was stable. 70 dwelling houses, little subsistence agriculture, good fish in the rivers. You see a life in communion with God represented in the forest,
Nature.
in the nature, as they call the Pachamama. Yeah? That was
What does
great,
that mean?
the great Mother Earth. Yeah, you see,
Is that
the
in
mother
Quechua,
who the Quechua, yeah, that's right. The one who feeds us, who gives us everything.
Yes.
Well, but after 3 years came the Japanese. And the biggest cattle rancher in the place, a man who has hundreds of thousands of acres, he came with higher killers and false papers claiming for the land, saying that the land belonged to him. You see. And some of the people say no, and everybody has guns. Yeah. So the army came and interfered to avoid a kind of social conflict. The army.
The Brazilian army.
Yeah, the Brazilian army.
Were they defending one side or the other?
No, they came to avoid the social conflict there. You see, the kind of jungle battalion.
So
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, what happened was a kind of a good alignment and extraordinary coincidences, because at the same time that was happening was coming a commission, scientific commission from the government with the militaries and federal police to investigate what was the Daime. You see.
Could you share with the audience what is the Daime?
Well, I like to tell the story.
Okay.
Okay. And so with the colonel and the captain came a sociologist, anthropologist, psychologist, psychiatry, ethnobotanical, scientific, with all their cameras and now is our old videotapes, you see, from that time in beginning of the 80s. and they tried to interview Padrinho Sebastião next morning. And Padrinho Sebastião said to them, you came here to know what's the Daime? Let's drink it. If you really want to know it, let's have the experience together. Right, Dr. Coronel? You see, I know that you're a man of courage. You're a warrior. So we're going to drink strong Daime tonight. Together, everybody. And so everybody did it. You see. And they could, test in themselves.
Yes, indeed.
If there were any harm. And not only that, they tested with the psychology tests, psychiatry examination, the sociologists and anthropologists detect the structures of families, the relation of the community with the work, the production of the community, patterns of harmony in the, community, social, that's it. And they could not find anything that could justify anything that could make them create a prohibition or repress that. It was the contrary. Coronel got very friend of Padrinho Sebastião. And from there on, the Daime was okay. And then we called them, their attention to the environmental situation. You see. And Padrinho Sebastião...
Very wise.
Yeah, and then Padrinho Sebastião said, I don't want to stay here anymore. I don't want to stay in a land that people, you see, are with so many conflicts and blood and bullets and things. Now we are spiritual people. Yeah. So army suggested 90,000 acres reserved to us in another place chosen by Padrinho Sebastião. And he, in an astral travel, went to the place first. And then come back and took the people there 5 days in the Igarapé. Igarapé is the little river inside the forest. Took it 5 days to get to the place there. And then started Mapiá. That was like 15 years ago. You see, yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
That's the story of the origin of Mapiá.
Yeah, and then we went to Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, to get land titles to the community, and we are offered like 300 acres per family, but with a astonishing request, to prove that we are occupying really there, we should deforestate 40%. And then we said this will mean that we have a farm with cows and we need to kill 40% of our cows to prove that we are in the farm. Now we cannot accept that.
Yes.
Then we didn't sign anything. We didn't receive any land titles. And we come back to the jungle waiting for the next cattle rancher, feeling the heat of the fire in our back, of our necks, feeling like an endangered species.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? 1 football field per minute. Not X anymore. I want to tell you, they don't use even chainsaws anymore.
What do they use?
Giant sheep chains with giant tractors. Because Amazon soil is sand and the humus. So the horizontal roots, the trees. A tractor, if push the tree, she falls. So there's not only one tree, it's the giant chain taking all the forest.
In one
Hundreds of
shot.
trees per minute are falling right now. And in that time was 1 football field per minute. Now it's 5 football fields per minute. At this right time, with all the fauna, all the precious biodiversity of the forest being destructed totally. Entire ecosystem,
Uprooted.
very
Literally.
old. You see, you see, because there is a place, there's a kind of mega diversity. with the explanation, because it's very old forest.
Oh yeah.
Time enough for life manifested itself in a plurality of species.
Exactly.
You see, so it's a kind of bio-treasure, a biological treasure, a genetic biological treasure that's
Not to
being destroyed
mention-
at this rate.
It's also generating a large portion of the oxygen for the entire planet.
Yeah, but this point, but it consumes this oxygen too. You see, many oxygen that the forest produce, she itself uses too in the photosynthesis process. That's very huge and vast.
Yes.
You see, because the fertility, the luxury fertility of the forest doesn't come from the soil. As I told you, it's just sand. There was an ocean before the ants raised.
Sure.
But comes from the heaven, the sky, you see, with the equatorial sun and so much rain,
Mm-hmm.
you see, everything goes very fast. You know? And these are
So
being
this is the
destroyed
kind of
like
destruction
that.
that's going on
Yeah,
not only every day and every hour, but literally every minute.
Yeah,
5 football
yeah,
fields a
per minute in the burning season, let's say, because now starts the burning season. They start the burning season in the drying season.
So,
So
did
everything.
that Japanese man finally take control of that land?
Well, we don't know. We think so, because that after within years that was deforested. When you fly over, you can see that was deforested. You see, and
So who is it that is actually perpetuating this destruction? Do you know exactly the people or the companies?
well, I can tell you first I would like to tell like a myth. Who is doing that? Who is perpetuating the destruction for me is the adipose.
The what?
Adipose, you know, from Greek, a Greek myth, adipose, that
Ah,
adipose
yes.
complex from
Entiendo.
Friday.
Entiendo.
Fried
Oedipus.
Oedipus. Né? We have now a blind Oedipus that killed the father, God, filled the spiritual dimension. There's no
Screwed the
more.
mother.
There's no more that father to put the limits to the son,
Mm-hmm.
and then the son is raping the mother, very blind, and I'll tell you, he's going to feel very guilty with the time.
That's right.
You
And
see.
ashamed.
Yeah. We don't know if there will be time enough to recover, but that's happening because all of that is happening in the name of progress. But you see, that means money. You see, but there's a lack of knowledge about that. You see, people doesn't know very well, because if they know, even because of financial reasons, they would preserve.
Of course. I say this to the audience all the time,
Uh-huh.
that to be ecologically wise
Mhm.
is to create even more income, more
Mhm.
profit.
Yeah.
Not less.
Uh-huh.
It's just over time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But what's the big deal? Time is
Uh-huh.
going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
make all of it now or later, why not meet it out over time and have it for generations? But
That's it.
the point is, we're very, very painfully aware of the destruction.
Mm.
And I think as time goes on, Paulo, more and more it's up to us to cite exactly who it is that's doing it. I agree. The archetypal
Well,
image
basically,
of Oedipus is the underlying psychology.
Yes.
And now we've got to look
Yeah, we
at
have a bigger cattle.
people.
Yeah, we have bigger cattle ranching there. That's more, I would say, national, né? And multinational too.
Yes.
But for me personally, the biggest enemy there now are the Southeast Asia wood companies that are buying areas bigger than European countries, and they're just a big devastation. They're taking all the wood they get. They got mahogany like that. They all don't let even time to the trees grow, you know.
And
you
are
see.
they replanting?
I'm sure they are not doing, you see.
And they're getting the
Yeah.
old growth.
Yes.
They're going for the
yes,
old.
yes, you see. There's a big problem about that.
Yeah.
And there was one that, but unfortunately, there's a big recession, there's a big fragility at the economic market of Southeast Asia, so maybe this can stop them.
Yes, maybe it'll slow it down.
Yeah, slow it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part too is the problem of poorness. You see, absolutely poverty. You see, so people burns and people kills and people.
Now,
you
but
see.
over time, I mean, generationally, there have been tribes and people, groups, clans, families who have lived in the Amazon for probably centuries and centuries and centuries. And, I mean, measured from the Western idea of wealth, they didn't have much, but they did eat, they did clothe their children, they did have their own form of education, language, culture, and they lived sustainably. What happened that changed that? Was that, in particular, the Spanish?
Well, no, it was the economic world order. You know, that this division between first world and second world and third world, that creates patterns of misery and hungry. You see, that makes these people completely kind of abandoned there with no jobs. You see, yeah, the government, local governments of third worlds, they don't have resources to help these people to have a kind of a decent life, that their citizenship, you know what I mean, live with dignity. Yes. You see, it's a very, very difficult, because now and the problem is not even the governments of first world. The governments of first world, some politically, they are interested in a kind of a general development, you see. But the multinational companies, you see, that they are more powerful somehow, you see, they are very cruel and very cold.
That's right.
You see.
Self-interest.
Yeah, self-interest. So they don't give opportunities to co-development.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a kind of monopoly in a global scale.
That's right.
So that kind of disappears many opportunities of industry and production. That happened with us. To tell you the continuation of the story, we went to the jungle where we didn't receive the land titles.
Yes.
Went to the jungle, and then I was invited to come to. I met some good American people. Yeah, and then I was invited. Yeah, and then I was invited to. Here comes the cavalry. When we are in the last arrow, comes the ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta. You know, in the, like in the westerns.
Right.
The cavalry, yeah.
Right.
And the cavalry, yeah. And I was invited to speak about our situation in the Harvard speech series.
Really?
Yes, in the Harvard University. And at that time we are presenting not only our problems but the solution we have for that. That was about plant extraction.
And a
hundreds of millions of dollars just extracting, not cutting. You don't touch the capital, you touch the interests.
Yes.
You don't cut the tree, you harvest the fruits that the tree lets there. 18 kinds of vegetable oil, 23 kinds of fruits, 1,250 medicinal trees or plants. You see, there are many things you can just harvest from the forest without cutting one tree. That's the way the Indians have been done. You see, there's not a tremendous invention we got or a great discovery. It's just a natural way of native people during centuries, as you said.
That's right. So was that a lot of that wisdom and knowledge must have been lost, because why would a native person even be caring about something called a job? I mean, a job is really a form of slavery most often, very often. And so, I mean, here they're living within the domain of nature, knowing how to do, as you say, extract, exploit fruits. And nature replenishes.
That's what I used to call about the homo, this is a joke, but it's the homo ecologicals. It's humankind,
Yes.
humankind
One with nature.
yeah, before hunt or before plant. A very primal stage when people just extract with no harming.
That's right,
You see,
exactly.
that in Amazonia, regarding the biodiversity, with so many, each month the forest is so generous, our mother. We have so many kinds of nuts
Every month.
and fruits.
Yeah.
We have more species of fishes than the Atlantic Ocean, and less species of fishes than the Pacific Ocean, around 2,000 kinds.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so generous. So we had a solution. And then we made political connections there in Harvard that brought us to the United Nations here in New York.
Oh, yes.
And
You received some kind of award.
Oh, yeah.
Recognition for your work, yeah?
Oh, no, in that time people tried to do that, but I refused it if they didn't give me, together with the war, a Kevlar clothes. You know what I mean? A Kevlar, you see, bulletproof.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, your life was in danger.
yeah, my life was in line at that time. You see, so I had to be kind of precautious
Yes, right, right.
to survive. Yeah. But we went to I met a wonderful person at the United Nations, Dr. Noel Brown, you see, that he helped us very, very much. You see, he even invited Padrinho Sebastião to come to Earth Day here in New York with all his family, but Padrinho Sebastião didn't want to live his life there in the jungle, so he sent it myself. And then after that, the United Nations went to Brazilian government, you see, and in 6 months, we received 1.5 million acres of land.
That you are now the custodian of.
That's it. They become 2 national forests, our place, you see.
Listen, I hate to tell you that you've gained a lot of land and we've lost a lot of time. So we're wrapping this up, but if you're willing to stay, and I would love to hear, and I think the audience would love to hear more of the story, and also to touch upon the Daime and its role in awakening consciousness relative to preservation and respect from Mother Earth. We would have you on again, yeah?
Okay, thanks.
¿Es posible? Okay.
Well, a lot of pleasure.
Okay,
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Paulo.
Okay, bye-bye.
We've been speaking with Paulo Roberto about his work, his very profound work in the Amazon, in preserving it, preserving a way of life that people have known for really many hundreds and hundreds of years, and dealing with formidable foes that are tempting and in many ways succeeding at cutting down our precious, precious life force represented in the trees and the jungle. So we're very thankful to have Roberto on, and we will have him back again, Paulo Roberto, next week. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Please call at 212-420-0800. Share your thoughts and feelings with me, and I look forward to seeing you all